Good morning and Merry Christmas. Well, Anne Lamott wrote a wonderful little book several years ago, about 10 years or so ago. It was her take on prayer, the meaning of prayer, the importance of prayer. She called her book Help, Thanks, Wow. In her sort of funny and insightful way of seeing the world, she said, essentially, I can break down prayer into three words. She said, sometimes I just need assistance in life. I need God to assist me. We need God to assist us. In those days, those times, my prayer is help. God, help. We all know those prayers. Other times she says, I remember just how blessed I am, how grateful I am in my life. Those days, my prayer is thanks. God, thank you. But then there are other times, she says, times when I am just in awe. I'm in awe of God. I'm in awe of God's power. I'm in awe of God's love. I'm in awe of creation, God's creation. I'm in awe of God's mercy. In those days, my prayer is wow. Today's a wow day, I think. While a lot of us have moved on and we've sort of packed away our Christmas decorations, maybe some of us have, it's still Christmas. It's the Christmas season. We're only halfway through the 12 days of Christmas. So really, this is not just a wow day. This is a wow season. It's a season when we remember that God's love for us was so intense, so profound that God came down to live with us, to live as one of us. A baby that was born in extremely meek and humble circumstances so that God could show us firsthand just how much God loved us. So this is a wow season that we're right in the middle of right now. The challenge for a lot of us, though, is that our prayers don't often make it to wow. Very often our prayers kind of stop before they get that far. It's probably most common for us to get to that help prayer. That's a pretty common prayer. I would imagine that a lot of us pray help pretty often. And there's nothing wrong with a help prayer. Help prayers are very appropriate prayers. In fact, the Bible tells us numerous times that we should ask God for help for ourselves and for others. In fact, the Bible even tells us in the New Testament, it tells us in the book of Hebrews that we should approach the throne of grace with boldness, seeking the help of God. So help prayers are good, appropriate prayers. Likewise, thankful prayers are necessary and good. We should be praying to God for help. We should be praying to God, thanking God for our blessings in life. When I think about thankful prayers, though, I think they're probably a little less prevalent than helpful prayers. Maybe we don't thank God as much as we should. When I think of thankful prayers, I'm reminded of the story in the New Testament and Luke's Gospel of the 10 lepers. Do you remember that story? Jesus heals 10 men who are afflicted with leprosy. And of course, they're all ecstatic that they no longer have this disease, but only one of the 10 comes back to thank Jesus that he's been healed. That's probably emblematic for us in general, that we're quick to ask God for help, but sometimes not so quick to thank God for our blessings in life. So we have help prayers, which are good. We have thankful prayers that are good. But this wow prayer, this wow thing is something altogether different. And when I hear these scriptures, these stories about Simeon and Anna, I'm reminded of people who seem to know about wow. So in the scripture story, we heard about Mary and Joseph. They are bringing Jesus, who is now 40 days old, still a tiny baby. They're bringing 40-day-old Jesus to the temple to be presented according to the Mosaic law. Well, the temple, no doubt, would have been teeming with people. That's just the way the temple was, teeming with people and activities. Temple was a busy place. For all we know, there may have even been other parents there who were presenting their child for the purification rites as well. So there were lots of people, I'm sure, in the temple that day. But the thing is, nobody was paying any attention to Mary and Joseph and Jesus. They were just another family who was there sort of doing their ritual religious duty. Nobody was paying them any attention. All the people in the temple were just sort of going about their business, paying them no mind. Everybody, that is, except for Anna and Simeon. So what did they know? Why did they know who Jesus was when all those other people seemed to have no idea? Because Simeon and Anna were waiting for this day. They had been actively waiting for this moment. They had been praying for the day when the Messiah would come into their midst. They were expecting to see Jesus in their lifetime. They had been anxiously looking forward to this day. Even though they'd been waiting for years, they were still expecting to see Jesus in their lifetime. So they lived their life with their eyes open. I love the way Anne Lamott puts it in her book. She said, "Gorgeous, amazing things come into our lives when we're paying attention." And Simeon and Anna were definitely doing that. They were paying attention. And unlike all the other people in the temple that day who were distracted by all the other stuff going on, Anna and Simeon were not distracted. They were paying attention. And they recognized who Jesus was. Simeon was even able to hold and embrace Jesus in his arms. This is one of the many things that Anna and Simeon can teach us. That in order to pray wow to God, we've got to pay attention. In other words, we're not likely to notice the wonders of God or even the presence of God in our midst if we're not fully engaged, if we're not looking for God. We're not going to notice the wow of God if we're not expecting to see God among us, if we're continuing to be distracted by all the other things around us. I remember a couple of years ago, the Rolling Stones were in concert here down in Charlotte. It's a big deal. The Stones don't tour that often, and when they do, they don't usually come to Charlotte, so it was a big deal. The night before the Stones were to play in Charlotte, Mick Jagger decides he wants to go out to a bar in Charlotte. You guys remember this story? So he and one of his drivers or bodyguards get in their car, they drive down to Plaza Midwood, and they go to a bar, a place called the Thirsty Beaver Saloon. It's a real dive bar, real hole in the wall kind of a place. And Mick gets out of the car, he goes inside, he gets a beer, and he goes and stands in the middle of several people, and nobody recognizes him. Nobody says a word to him. He just stands there drinking his beer. The guy who was with him, his bodyguard, takes a picture of him, posts it on social media, and it goes viral, national. It makes national news, gets reported the next day. Charlotte, North Carolina, nobody recognizes Mick Jagger. Kind of embarrassing for Charlotte, really. And he's in the Thirsty Beaver Saloon. You can see the people standing around looking at him. Believe me, the clientele in that bar looked like they were ideal Rolling Stones fans. I've never been to the Thirsty Beaver, so you know that about me now. Looks like a pretty neat place, though. Some of those people probably ended up going to the concert the very next night, but they didn't see Mick Jagger right there standing 2 feet from them. Nobody was paying attention. Therefore, they didn't see rock and roll royalty in their presence. We miss out on wow moments when we're not paying attention. Thankfully, my son Jack never had that problem. When Jack, who's now in college, when Jack was a little boy, Jack always walked around ready. Jack was just certain that he was about to meet a celebrity. Just the way he lived his life. He would often come home and tell us about the famous person that he saw when he was out and about that day. He was pretty sure he did anyway. His best story was the day that he came home and told us he was so excited because he had seen Cam Newton at the Dollar Tree in Cornelius. And I had to say, buddy, this was back when the Panthers were really good. And Cam Newton was a superstar. I had to tell him, buddy, I don't think an NFL millionaire superstar is going to drive up to Cornelius to do his shopping at the Dollar Tree. He was convinced, though, because he was always sure he was going to see somebody famous. But then, interestingly, about that same time, maybe a little while later, our family was on vacation in the Outer Banks. We were eating dinner and at a restaurant in the Outer Banks, and while we were eating, Jack said, "Oh, I know that lady. She's in the Guinness Book of World Records. She holds the record for the woman with the smallest waist in the world." And I was like, there he goes again. When Jack was a little boy, he used to read the Guinness Book of World Records when he was going to bed every night. And so he knew that book like the back of his hand. And I thought, here he goes again with that stuff. But right as we were having that conversation, the waiter came over and said, "Excuse me, I overheard your conversation. Were you talking about that lady over there?" And we said, "Yes." He said, "That woman is in the Guinness Book of World Records." And he's right. She does have she's in the world records for having the slimmest waist in the world. She lives right here in Manio, and she's a local celebrity. And she dines here in our restaurant all the time. So we Googled her, and sure enough, it was her. Jack was right. And of course, at that point, I had to stop asking myself, wait a minute, maybe Cam Newton does shop at the Dollar Tree. Jack was really good at expecting to see someone special. He's always looking for them. And that's a lesson for us as we start this new year. We should be expecting to see God among us. And the more we're looking, the more likely we are to see God. The more we're looking, the more we're going to recognize God. And the more we're going to meet God. So let's just stop for a moment and ask yourself, how will my life be different in 2024 if I met God? If I were expecting to see God around every corner this year. If I saw God in the beauty of creation, How would my year be different if I saw God in the faces and in the places where there are needs that I can help to meet? How would my year be different if I saw God just in that person who's working behind the counter at the store? Or if I could see God in that person who's trying to merge with me in traffic on the interstate? Or if I could see God whenever I have an opportunity to offer mercy to someone? Or if I could see God whenever I can build a bridge of unity where there has been division in the past? These are all places, these are all opportunities for us to meet God. These are wow moments that are just waiting for us. And they're out there in front of us all the time. I pray that we're open to them. I pray that we're paying attention and that we're expecting to see them this year. And in doing so, like Anna and like Simeon, that we will embrace Christ more fully into our lives. Amen.